Good day and good evening, because that's what the time is where I am. I hope you have a wonderful day. Welcome to Solo Challenge stream, where I will use my main to attempt to solo content in Final Fantasy XIV, primarily dungeons where there is a reasonable chance that we can do it synced, as opposed to doing it unsynced. It's usually more interesting when you're doing it synced. So that's what we're doing. Today we're starting with Gimlet Dark. I know the stream title says Holminster Switch. We will get to that. We're starting with Gimlet Dark. I don't think we can solo that, but we'll try. Give it a good old try. And then we'll go into Holminster Switch, which also I don't actually think you can, but the reasons I think you can't are possibly not the reasons you can't. Maybe there's some other reason I can't do it. Or maybe we can. I can imagine that if you've done Holminster Switch, you probably already know why it is I think it's impossible. But we will still try. And if we still have time after that, we're doing Blue Mage. So I hope you look forward to all that. Hey Ajibasta, hey Malice, hey Aradel, hey Ymir, hey Gazan, and hey Fila, it's been a while. And hey Bob, I hope you're all doing very well. Time for Kai's annual run. Oh yeah, our the annual run is the cardio exercise to finish the year, so to speak. Hey Ryan, hope you're doing well as well. If you're wondering like what kind of equipment and things I use basically just the armor that I'm actually wearing, which means that it gets scaled down. Most of my gear has crit and determination, or crit and tenacity, or determination and tenacity. I don't have any skill speed because warrior feels weird with skill speed, so I just don't. The high item level doesn't do anything because we get scaled down anyway, although it does mean we might bring slightly more stats than someone that was using appropriate gear, although they would be able to use materia. We're also using specifically the Blade's Valor, where I have adjusted the stats to be very close to perfect for this specific level range. So we're going to get significantly more tenacity than we otherwise would, and slightly less determination than we could. And that's basically the plan. Not like no like big fancy tricks, it's just max level gear and then a relic weapon. And in terms of potions, we're using hyper potions because they happen to be the strongest in this level range. And basically at some point when your HP passes, I think it's 14,000 or so, super potions just don't heal as much as hyper potions, so there's no reason to not use hyper potions. You can get these from Eureka Authors. I think you can also just straight up craft them, or you can buy them. And then we're also bringing grade 7 tinctures of strength. Incidentally, my strength doesn't actually reach 2000 in Gimlet Dark, so those are basically equal in power to these. In case we need it for a DPS check. I don't even know if we can, like if it'll be enough, but we will try. Like I'll do everything I can. If you've seen my Xenos attempts from some weeks back, you know I will. If I give up on a DPS check, it's because I actually don't think I can do it. Look at the Magi and Viek and 11. Hope you're doing well. Look at the Magi says, it took me a while to figure out what in Holminster Switch would make it impossible. Yeah, this might be Sable Price all over again. I do believe the difference is the reason why I think it's impossible and don't know it's impossible actually, look at the Magi, is because the Sable Price in Holminster Switch doesn't kill you. It just holds you locked in place as an attack is dealt to you that hits like a freight train. But maybe we can live it. The thing is, we're stuck for so long that we can't use any cooldowns. I think maybe we can bring a barrier from Shake It Off in, but that's pretty much it. Are you going to try the 2 wall-to-wall pulls before the first boss? Yes, of course. We always do wall-to-wall pulls. We only stop doing that if we can't. Oh yeah, I'm also using baked plant as food. Baked eggplant. Hey Tristan and hey Rust, I hope you're doing well as well. And Hammond says, I see you didn't forget the most important thing, pink dye. I mean, we can't pull that big if we don't have pink dye. Yeah, we have benches now, Vila. I think I added those quite recently. Hey Gleaming, hope you're doing well, and I think it's about time that we enter Gimlet Dark. Now, if you're wondering what it is that makes me think that that one is impossible, is because the final boss has a DPS check. And I'm pretty sure you're meant to use a limit break for it. Like, it's not that you have to, but you're meant to. And when you're meant to use a limit break, it's a problem. The mobs are even white and ready to get painted pink. Oh yeah, that'll be great in Holminster Switch. Oh, you're right, Tristan. We were just talking about the Holminster Switch, but you're absolutely right. We're just starting with this one. How about some more ads? I think I can stand my ground for a little bit. Final Fantasy 14 Splatoon crossover event. I tell you, I'm ready for that. I'm ready if that ever happens. You don't like this dungeon in here? Is there anything specific about it? The waiting. Is there so much waiting? I see. It's been a long time since we've been able to like stand our ground legitimately like this. Squids of light. Oh yeah, there's all the NPC shenanigans where they force you to kind of just hang out. But I do think you can do some of it in like big AoE pulls. Some of it. Not all of it, but some of it. You know, it's going to be great when we get into Shadowbringer stuff to eventually get the Beast Gauge generation on Mithril Tempest. That's going to be fun. That's going to be excellent. We spent so much time just casting that and nothing else. The Pugnags are always scary because for some reason they tend to have a weird like tank buster thing going. I don't know if these do, but it's like the jerk anglerfish in A Realm Reborn, that they just tend to have it. Imagine having an AoE combo actually interact with your job mechanic. Yeah, I know, right? Imagine having that, you know, I don't know, like by level 40 or something. Wouldn't that be nice? What do you mean, Gunbreaker and Dark Knight? And the worst part is Dark Knight got changed to work like that. And then Warrior's just standing there in the corner like, and me? How about me? Oh, no, you don't get that. You don't get that. Hey, Lemon. I hope you're doing well. I do think I'm winning. We've finally found a dungeon we can solo synced where we don't have to kite the mobs while doing a big AoE pull. How insane is that? We've reached the point where Warriors so insanely busted that they can actually genuinely, legitimately solo a wall-to-wall pull, and they don't actually need anyone. They don't even need shenanigans. I'm just stockpiling some resources here so that we can open on the boss as hard as possible. I think he has a stack marker. I'm pretty sure he has a stack marker. We need to keep that in mind. Is it because there are more walls to separate them? No, it's just because the packs aren't as strong for some reason. We have done 2-pack AoE pulls in previous dungeons where we actually couldn't just stand our ground. It's specifically something with the power level of either warrior or the trash. One of the two. That mechanic is always a little scary, because you have to move right in the last moment, pretty much. Does he not have a stack marker? I'm pretty sure he has a stack marker. Is he not? I'm holding all of my cooldowns just in case he has one. He does. Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure he does. I'm glad it's not just me. And the other way. Again, Malice. I'm holding defensive cooldowns, Gleaming. Don't you worry. I'm going full blast on the damage. Let's see how much it is. Just... Oh, let's see. That's like 15,000, I think. Around 15, 16,000 if I took it clean in the face. That's kind of low. Is that a knockback, or is it just AoE? For some reason I thought it was a knockback. I think I can just take this. You almost got me. Almost. I could have used a cooldown. I just wanted to see if it was a problem. The clip potential. No. Imagine if he died. Yeah, exactly. Guys, I think I can take this. That would have been glorious, but oh well. Yep, pretty much. Look at the Magi. If a stack marker lands on the tank, it has now been degraded to Tank Buster, or upgraded to Tank Buster. I don't know. Yeah, I give my all. We give our all to bear. Dead. Eulogia moment. We're halfway there. Does this boss have anything happening later in the fight? Or is that it? Can't remember. I feel like we've already seen everything he normally does. That was slightly more challenging because he like wore my HP bar down and then did the stack mark, so I had to use a little bit extra. That was a little better. He's learning. He's becoming self-aware. Ow. The whole smacking the arena mechanic looks so dumb when you're solo. You mean when he's doing like this? This mechanic? Yeah, I mean that is it's pretty dumb when you're alone. It's like I am right here. Colossus, you don't have to do all that. I'm right here. I'm going to need a bigger blade. Yeah, generally, I've said this many times on these solo streams. Whenever the boss is doing a raid-wide attack, the boss is making a mistake. Like that's basically what's happening. If they're not, if it's a stack marker, that's a pretty good move. If it's a tank buster, that's a pretty good move. But if they are using a raid-wide attack, the boss is actively making a mistake. Because that damage is not going to be significant enough. It's not going to matter. Exactly, Viek. If he actually snuck up on me hard enough, I'll just go like, oh, well, I guess I'll use my invuln then. The problem is that for a boss to actually be scary enough for a warrior is the boss has to do something that is actually threatening more than once every 4 minutes. A good example of that was in... what was it called? The level 69 dungeon? Nice. Where the second boss, you know, the one with the overflowing cups, he actually does something that can kill you outright, like every 2 minutes. So and you have to survive that for a long time. Yeah, Casper Mabania, exactly. Thank you. He said the line. Blade. This is also something you could draw with a blade. A line. I think I weaved that awkwardly. Do I actually see, do I get this one? Looks like I did. There's a lot of mobs. I'll try and use a little bit extra juice here to get as many counter swings out of my vengeance as I can. Oh, one of them has a tank buster. Lovely. I think it's the spider thing. Don't you know your AoE combo is a DPS loss on 2 or less targets? Oh, that's gold. These bosses not using optimal rotations. Cleaving on single target. The tank critter has a tank buster. Right, this is a critter. The big boy. I just want to remind you that in one of the level 60 dungeons, I believe it's Bales's Wall, this spider thing is a boss. Like, one of these is a boss. Like, of course, it's supposed to be a bigger, fancier version of it, but it, like, I mean, you know what I mean. It's technically a boss. Oh, you said the same thing, Ymir. Sorry about that. Ready? Is it edible? Isn't there that story about the guy that ate a plane? Like, piece by piece over a long time. And it wasn't like a big plane, it was like a reasonably small plane, but it was still a plane. Also, Pippin, it's my mobs. You can't have them, it's mine. This is a solo challenge, Pippin. You can't come here tanking for me like that. It just doesn't work. Yeah, very true, Aradil. I'm still looking forward to actually getting a. I've talked about this before. I want the boss theme from Final Fantasy VII in the game. Meanwhile, we have Rupee Weapon and Emerald Weapon, but where Final Fantasy VII boss theme? I can has. Well, that was a very, very opportune moment that the mobs started dying. I was really reaching my limit here, as you can see. I was starting to go, I think I have to run. In fact, if that many mobs hadn't died, then I would have had to had started running earlier, and I was in trouble. But we're rushing, so we have as much time as possible for the bosses. Still have shirk. Can I shirk to NPCs? Nope, not my party member. Hey shirk guy, hope you're doing well. Yep, it says party members. That is true, Rust. Oh boy. Wait. Oh, the door's just open. Fair enough. I thought for a second I had to fight more stuff. Ow. Captain Sucker Punch over here? If you have a lot of mobs hitting you, does attacking one by one and killing them count as mitigation? Technically, yes. It counts as mitigation in the exact same way that using low blow to put an enemy out of commission for 5 seconds is technically mitigation. Like, if you have 5 enemies and you stun one of them, that's technically rampart for 5 seconds. Has something interesting happened that I didn't catch up? I mean, we did the first boss. And so far we've been pretty steadily progressing. The first boss was rather easy. We discovered that we could take the stack marker just clean in the face and survive it no problem, which is hilarious. It's always funny when you realize that a tank can just ignore a mechanic entirely. And get hurt a lot, but we could take it with no defensives. Speaking of mistake, another thing that is a DPS loss for bosses in these solo challenges is when they use telegraphs that you can easily dodge. Hey, law-abiding Pokemon, hope you're doing well, and I hope you're abiding the law. First time catching a stream. Well, I'm glad to have you. Good luck with your solo challenge. Thank you. I'm trying to solo Seed of Sacrifice. I mean, if you can survive the LB4 at the start after the intermission, then you would be able to do it. But don't you have to have limit break to do that? I'm pretty sure you have to have a tank limit break to do that. I mean, the tank limit break is an 80% damage reduction, so maybe if you have enough defensive, you might be able to do it. I'm inclined to say maybe you can do it. I'm pretty sure you can't, but I've made the mistake of assuming that you can't do something before. The core we need to know is Does the attack check if you have tank limit break 3 or you die, or is it the 80% damage reduction in the tank limit break 3 that makes you? Kimia says otherwise blue would be able to. I suppose you're right, because they have a 90%, right? Just super polite. I'm pretty sure it strikes through invulns. It is possible that tanks have reached a point unsynced where they can just live it. And there's also the part that Blue Mage doesn't have the option to be level 90. So to, like, you know, to have the extra HP and all that. So like, I mean, maybe there's something we're missing. That's why I'm saying I'm not going to say that it can't be done. It's just that everything I know tells me that it can't be done. Drokai says I did it 2 or 3 days ago, not solo. The fight is awesome. Even the normal version. Doesn't even have to be extreme. It also is challenging in a way. Like it's not savage. It's not extreme. Of course not. But of trials in general, like it is a very good difficulty, I think. Like it challenges you properly. And also to the edge is awesome. Oh man, this fight would be a lot shorter if you didn't keep doing that. Hey Jibberwocky, hope you're doing well. To the Edge is absolutely also like on at the top of my list. There's a few on, like specifically, especially up on that list. But To the Edge is absolutely up there. I think it's also one of the songs that I've actively sought out the most. Like, you know, just go, I want to hear some Final Fantasy XIV music. I think I'll listen to the Edge. Ryan asks if I like action or martial arts movies. I don't actually watch a lot of movies. I can't really. And I don't know who the Muscles from Brussels is. No, but I don't actually watch a lot of movies. So, oh, that is the saddest raw intuition ever. Yeah, Hearts Aligned is also great. Generally, the way I see it is like I kind of just merge that one with the Endwalker theme itself, because it's I believe Hearts Aligned is like a specific part of it, and I also like the rest of it. Yeah, I don't watch very many movies, so it would be hard for me to speak on action or martial arts movies. Oh, you're dead. Fair enough. This fight took so long that I completely forgot to look at the HP bar.
You underestimate me.
Oh, that could be. Look at the magic. You might be right on that. Look, I have a party. Well, almost a party. I have Captain Bluesword and Canesena, the one with the quote-unquote boring one, as a lot of people say. I remember someone said that Canesena, they said Canesena is so boring that she even stands in a boring way. I don't know about that. I think she's pretty nice. But that's what I heard. We entered our enrage. Very true. The Hearts Aligned is when the boss said, wait, why do I hear boss music? Well, you know, Lemon. People will always find someone to complain about. Yeah, as far as I know, I can't remember. Is it the one of the role quest lines in Endwalker where it's basically implied that Kanesena was a real party girl before she had to be a leader? Something like that? Yeah, exactly, Lyris. I don't need a healer. I don't need a healer or a DPS. I just need myself and this axe. Amy, we're talking about Kanesena. The poor motorcycle trying his best and you just zone out killing it. Well, maybe you shouldn't have like been dragging out the fight, so... Kanesena and Sadu shares the same voice actress. Wow. That's quite different voices. I did not know that. Now, everyone, imagine Kanesena saying any one of Zadu's lines. Or vice versa. Oh man, I remember this boss from Doma Castle. Wow, it was strong. The thing that made the Hexadrone in Doma Castle so scary is that we discovered on stream that the stack marker in that boss actually ignores damage reduction. For some reason. Thancred and Puddingway are the same voice actor. What, really? Thancred saying, "Where is the pudding?" That's hilarious. I love that. Well, that's fair, look at the Magi. Part of the reason why I'm like... We don't have to get too specific, of course. We don't have to get too specific, but the reason why I'm like, it was one of the role quests, right? Is because even if we waited until like patch 8.0 with discussing it, there will be players that will never ever do that quest because it's technically optional. Like, it technically, those role quests are optional because you only need to do one of them. And if you only have to do one of them, then, like, I mean, it'll never be safe territory if we have to wait until everyone's finished. So that's why I'm like, well, it is one of the role quests. We don't have to get too specific with what we mean by that. But, I mean, now maybe some people are like, oh, which one is the one with Kanesena? I don't need to know this. Yeah, talking about spoilers is always complicated. Some people would find it too spoilery to even mention that there is anything there, but I mean, that role quest was from December 21, right? Was that 21? Or was it 23, 22? December 2022. So, if anyone wanted to see it, they've had ample opportunity. And yeah, I get that. I usually also do those role quests just to see. Like, I have most quests completed on my main. Most. See, normally in this bit, it feels so unnecessary that Lise has to finish it off, because you could probably do it with just your regular damage. But as a solo player, we will need Lise to finish off this guy. VX says, did we have to do any of the Endwalker role quests to even complete the MSQ? Nope. The only thing you got out of doing them was that it allowed you to dye your job gear that you got at level 89. But it's actually completely optional. Part of the reason why we did it on Small Kai was because we needed to be able to dye our Dragoon gear pink. And also because we wanted to do it. What are you doing, Dennis? Are you attacking the very real enemies with very, very threatening HP bars? What? You actually survived. Lise was also surprised that you just stood there like, huh? It doesn't normally end like that. This is getting scary. I didn't know he could live that. Gleaming says, is there a capstone to the role quest in Endwalker like in Shadowbringers? Yes, there is. They just added it way later, if I remember correctly. What would have happened if it got the chance to self-destruct? A wipe? I don't know. Hey Dad, hope you're doing well. I should make sure I have my burst potion just in case. That's a lot of damage. How are you using Airsbane? I'm pretty sure that's Gaia's weapon. Ow. They're doing quite a lot of just passive damage, I'll say that. Something that I should make sure to keep track of is when we are on the second of the bosses, we should start to hold back on offensive cooldown. On offensive cooldown so that we have them for the DPS check. Yeah, I could have sworn that Airsbane is specifically a unique gunblade that Gaius has. It's not like just a variant. It's specifically it's just as much unique as having Blade's Valor, for example. But I don't know. So maybe you're right, Jibberwocky. I believe Terminus Est is also used by Varys, yes. I'm pretty sure it's like something that the bigger, fancier gunblades can use. Or maybe it's just a gunblade thing, a Garlean gunblade thing. Terminus Est means it's over. I mean, they're using that name very incorrectly then. So this is a quite scary bit, because we can't attack anything, so if we take a lot of damage, we just have to deal with that. I think this is safe. Nice. Wait, when she's at like 30%, I think we should start just not using any offensive cooldowns. I know 30% is like a lot to just 1, 2, 3 combo down, but we want to be absolutely sure that we have... Oh, right. That we have everything we can have when the DPS check sets in. And I'm pretty sure she jumps away at really low HP, just like the other one did. Ow. One uses order to fire, the other one just uses the order. I use the order. The one. That also means we have to hold back on healing potions. Ow. Didn't realize that could hurt me. Yeah, the reason why I'm going to hold at 30% is specifically because, as you can see, maybe I should just hold now even. As you can see, I can whittle down this HP bar rather fast. I just need to maintain my defensive cooldowns, and then we can just slowly do this, and it's fine. I think I can sneak in one of these each. Do they do a lot of I was not in range for that. I call shenanigans. Shenanigans, I say. Do they do a lot of damage during the DPS check? We have to single target them down because I don't actually have any good attacks to cleave them with. And that would be hard enough with a proper group. But we have to do that alone. It's ping pong time! I don't think I can make it. But hey, maybe it doesn't work if they're alone. I forgot to set up Storm's Eye. I did use Holmgang. Hits through invulnerability. It's pretty classic. They usually do that. Very unfortunate. But it typically happens like that. That they hit through invulnerability, I mean. Maybe I can do it. The mistake I made was that I actually thought my Storm's Eye was still up. I don't know if that will actually help, but if I can... Like, if I open with 1, 2, 3 with Storm's Eye, then I'll at least have that. I don't know how long the cast was in total. Was it 30 seconds? But see, that was specifically the mechanic I was worried about. And how long did that take us? Like 10 minutes to reach that? And now we have to do all that again. Oh, and now they decide that we're doing it in the opposite order this time. Because reasons. Sure, whatever. I don't care. Yeah, exactly. These kinds of enrages, they will kill you through an invuln. Doesn't matter if it's Holmgang that says you can't go past 1 HP, or Hallowed Ground saying you can't take damage, you will still die. And the thing is, if they wanted to make sure, like 100% sure that you die to that, they could do that, or just have the bosses spam it. Like, just after they've cast it once, they'll just keep casting it until you actually die from it. But they don't have to do that, because there's reasonable chance you're going to die. 176,000 with my cooldowns. It's pretty hard to survive. Yeah, I always try Holmgang in these situations because maybe it'll work. But usually when it has worked, the reason it worked was because, well, the attack wasn't meant to one-shot you anyway, so it doesn't have the guaranteed kill switch. Oh boy. Such a long lead up because they have so much HP. That's the worst part. If I could just like skip to the last bit, then it might be a lot more like doable to practice. Also, congratulations, look at the Magi. But we will. I'll try again. I'll have to remember to set up Storm's Eye this time. And if it's still clear that, oh, I mean, there's a whole boss left, then there's no point, like, repeatedly trying. If it's so clear that I'm so outmatched, then there's no point. Hey, Akasin, hope you're doing well. We're trying to beat a very, very not intended for solo play boss. I think this is still fine. The second time you're so pissed the invuln doesn't work, that it works. Well, that would be an interesting twist. I just have to actually get red glowing eyes of anger, otherwise it doesn't work. What's these two's deal anyway? Oh, I can't remember, Gleaming. Maybe someone else remembers what the story is with these two. Yeah, because then this is a Stormblood fight. It is the final dungeon before Shadowbringers. And I would say it is considered on the harder side. Like, just as is. And then we're trying to solo it. And Thomas says they have zero story relevancy outside of the dungeon. No, none at all. I feel like I remember them like being like that they had a little bit of things happening leading up to this dungeon at least. But maybe I remember wrong. They're Xeno's bodyguards. Oh, well. That explains a lot. Oh yeah, those guys, they are this guy's bodyguards. Does he need those? Does he need those? Easiest job in the entire army. Xeno's bodyguards. I'm sure they also got way better weapons than everyone else. Make sure they can guard the important man. Oh no, my bodyguards. No, anything but that. Oh, Varys's bodyguards. I mean, that makes more sense. But he also probably might not need them. But that does make sense. Given how long it took them to do that, I have a feeling that my combo is going to end. I was really trying to like sauce it up, making sure that I have it like so I could just immediately do that. I have 19% to eat through with no resources. I can't do that. No. I can't. I don't think this can be done synced. I can't do that. Would AoE on the two of them work better? Nope. It would not. So it's a matter of potency. It's a good suggestion, look at the Magi, but it's a matter of potency. I can choose between Fellcleave for 520 potency or Decimate for 200. The only way Decimate would be helpful is if part of Fellcleave didn't actually go through, but because all of it is punched into one of them, it doesn't matter. It is the stronger option. Similarly, a 1-2-3 combo is, I believe it's maybe slightly the same. Like, it's nearly the same as a 1-2 combo. That's why I did that. But yeah, it's very distinctly made so that AoE is only better if there's 3 targets for nearly all jobs. So if they had been 3 and the HP was like split more evenly like that, then it would have worked. But I can't do it like that. I guess since I haven't watched your best solo sync jobs of it, but I know Warrior is the best. But what's the others? I mean, the other really great ones are Scholar. Like, that's the only one that the only other one that really matters. Because all of the other tanks are overshadowed by Warrior once you reach level 56. And all of the other healers are sort of overshadowed by Scholar once you reach, like, I think it's level 38. So that's the reason. But you might still be interested to watch the video to see why there are other jobs on the list. Because there are jobs that have an advantage over Scholar and Warrior at specific times. Yeah, this can't... I can't do it. There's a possibility someone can, but I tried with burst potions and everything. I can't do this fight. The DPS check is too steep, but I had a feeling that would be the case. I think I think I gave it a good shot. Also, hey Kids and Echo, hope you're doing well. So that is the last dungeon of Stormblood. It's the specific thing that I thought, as I said before we went in, the reason why I thought it couldn't be done was specifically because of that DPS check. Like, that was the thing I was suspecting before we even got in there. So on the one hand, I'm happy that that was the thing, because then it wasn't like something else I hadn't considered. On the other hand, it's unfortunate that we couldn't beat it. Gleaming says, I played Scholar so my new player friend could do roulettes for the first time, and I got to explain to him that I have an intern for healing. Also got says Tasha. because he's only got 2 or 3 dungeons, and I didn't need to click any non-damage buttons even once. True. The jobs that have the easiest time soloing Sastasha, like of all jobs available, is like Scholar, but technically you don't have access to that until you've beaten Ifrit 5 levels later. Gunbreaker, but I mean you need to be level 60. And White Mage, actually. White Mage is like the only normal class, well, Conjurer, right, that you could have access to when you've reached Sastasha that can easily solo Sastasha on level. And the reason why tanks are at a massive disadvantage there is because No Storm's Path, Paladin Lamau, I hope you brought potions, and White Mage can just kite while casting arrow. Just endlessly casting arrow. It's actually almost better than Scholar because of that. Almost. Because arrow does upfront damage, whereas bio does not. I think also arrow does more damage over time or something. You have 50 up front and then 30 every 3 seconds. Scholar at level 18 has bio, which is 200 in total. It's quite weak. Quite weak. Yeah, exactly, self-management. Yeah, EOS is what makes Scholar so insane. That's what makes it so that Scholar can solo Aurum Vale. Scholar can solo Aurum Vale. Why did you bring a party for that? You can just bring a Scholar. It's not easy, but you can. That's the key here, is that you can. Yeah, because Scholar's insane. But the other contenders are like, for good at soloing stuff, is like tanks that have a self-heal at a reasonable level. The reason why Paladin doesn't really have a chance in such a competition is because by the time Paladin has Clemency, Warrior has Raw Intuition. So it's like, would you want this or Raw Intuition? And Storm's Path, and Equilibrium, and Thrill of Battle. Or like you have this or all of that. Shiro says, because arrow does upfront damage and so is considered an attack, it's stopped by invuln or can miss. I'm not sure what you mean by that. You're not going to miss very much. Like, one of the bosses in Sastasha has an accuracy down attack, that's true. But what do you mean by stopped by invuln? I'm pretty sure the dot is applied just the same. Isn't it? I'm pretty sure bio is stopped by anything that arrow's dot is stopped by, but does that matter? Anyway, now we finally get to play with a new spell or new action, because we're going into Holminster Switch. By the way, hey Shiro, I hope you're doing well, and hey Major Clanger, I hope you're doing well as well. And I hope you also had a nice Christmas. Look at the Magi says, is there a point post Raw Intuition where Dark Knight is superior for soloing because of some quirk of dungeon design? I don't think so. I don't think so. The closest you could get to that is Dark Knight has more readily available barriers in the form of TBN, but Warrior has access to barriers often enough with Shake It Off to mess around with that kind of shenanigans typically, and at even higher level you get Bloodwetting, which also gives a barrier. And the reason why TBN just isn't good enough is because Dark Knight is trading, like going from Warrior to Dark Knight, you're trading an enormous amount of self-healing, which in a soloing sense is crucially important to have slightly more barriers, which you're going to be using on cooldown to survive because you're lacking healing. But Dark Knight has like a very niche level range before Warrior gets Thrill of Battle, Dark Knight is strictly better than Warrior at self-healing. And technically also better than Gunbreaker, because Gunbreaker's Brutal Shell is kind of meh at low level. The problem is that Warrior gets Thrill of Battle 4 levels later. And by that point, Warrior has like a tiny advantage. Like if you play it right and you bring potions, then Warrior has a slight advantage in self-healing over Dark Knight. If you're not bringing potions, then I'm pretty sure Dark Knight wins again. So Dark Knight has this fringe like level range where it might be the best. The problem is that that level range is below 50. So that means if you were to like make a playthrough out of it, you wouldn't want to use Dark Knight for anything, because by the time Dark Knight is on the table at your level 50, there's a reasonable chance that it would be like any content where Dark Knight would be a like option, Warrior would do it better. And there's even a level range after level 45 where Gunbreaker has Aurora, where Gunbreaker is the best. And that is like the Gunbreaker reign is like before 26 and after level 45 because of Aurora, but then it drops off at 56 because of Raw Intuition, right? It's just like there's like these ups and downs. That is something I talk about in that video if anyone's actually curious on the more detailed explanation. Gleaming says, I know I'm usually saying the job balance in this game is fine, but I still have to ask, why is Warrior like that? Who gave them all these things? The reason why it's okay for Warrior to have all this is because in an actual Savage boss fight, Bloodwetting isn't overpowered. It's a pretty big heal, but Bloodwetting is also the worst of the short cooldown defensive cooldowns. It's 19% combined with the 2 sets it gives you, 10% and 10%. And then it's a smaller shield. I think 400 potency is like 8 or 9% of your HP. So it's a meh TBN and the worst damage reduction of them all combined. And then it has this massive healing aftershock, which can be helpful, but only if you survive, right? So Bloodwetting is insane in AoE situations, but most times where it actually matters, Bloodwetting is just fine. And you might be saying, but what about all the other healing? Well, the thing is, Thrill of Battle is approximately the same strength, approximately, as Bulwark. Like, around that, we talked about that yesterday, and it's also pretty close to Camouflage on physical attacks. And it is objectively weaker than Dark Mind on magic attacks. And I don't know, Equilibrium, what does that match with? I don't know about that one. Equilibrium is a little bit of like just an extra bonus that might be a little overpowered that they have, but it's just an extra heal. It isn't that insane. They could have had an extra attack, and they don't. So I think the reason, Gleaming, is it isn't overpowered in Savage content. Equilibrium is like Clemency, but more generally useful. That's true. You have the choice between a 1-minute cooldown or spammable, but it's a GCD. What did you do, Coco? I can sense this my Dark Knight is level 90 and I only know how to Dark Knight and want to try another tank. Any suggestions? I mean, you could try any tank you want. If you want something similar to Dark Knight, a lot of people say that that Dark Knight is basically Warrior, but with extra stuff attached, offensively speaking, and Warrior is just way better defensively for dungeons and stuff. If you want to try something new, both Paladin and Gunbreaker is significantly different in feel. But, like, anything works. Warrior is the only tank with second wind. I mean, that's also true. Did you save a lot of money, Coco? Is that what you're saying? That's crazy. Glad to hear that. For you. Right. We are attempting Holminster Switch next. Let me just check my HP and stats and such. Yep, this is the better one. And now we have a Chaotic Cyclone, so that's fun. Did you know, fun fact, Chaotic Cyclone has an interesting, unique interaction. Well, unique interaction that Inner Chaos and Primal Rend also has with Raw Intuition and Bloodwetting. This interaction is that Raw Intuition and Bloodwetting will always crit their heals if you use them with an attack that itself is guaranteed to always crit. Also, thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships, Coco. Thank you. Also, this is a... these guys hit a lot harder than Gimlet Dark. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Yeah, and welcome Akasin, Mirsu, Ivan, Klutz, and Siren. Whoa, I almost died. To the Cult of the Pink. Gleaming says, does that mean if you just so happen to crit, you crit? Nope. It's a really weird interaction because the way it works is that if the attack you're using inherently is guaranteed to crit, then Raw Intuition's heal will always crit. But Inner Release does not count. It has to say on the tooltip of the attack you're using that it will always crit. So Inner Chaos, Chaotic Cyclone, and Primal Rend all like natively on their own without help always crit. So Raw Intuition will also always crit when activated by them. But it has to be like that. The reason why it is a quote-unquote unique interaction is because the only jobs that have heals that come as a side effect of a different attack is Warrior and Sage. With Sage having Cardia and Warrior having Raw Intuition and Bloodwetting. And Sage doesn't have anything to guarantee a crit with an attack, so or an attack that is guaranteed to crit for that matter, so we can't actually check whether Cardia works the same way, because they don't have such a thing. Welcome back, Inia. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so if you were watching along in Gimlet Dark and going, wow, Warrior's really insanely overpowered, why can't they just tank this like this? And now you see this, now you can probably understand why I was like, wow, the mobs in Gimlet Dark are really weak. Because this is how it normally goes, that I have to run around in circles like this. Ymir says, how did the last one go? We couldn't beat the DPS check on the final boss, it wasn't possible. I could get one of them down, but the other one still had like 75% of its remaining HP left. Well, the phase starts with 20%, and they would usually finish the cast with 15%. So it was just too insurmountable. Did you try with Blue? I did not. We could go back and try with Blue, but I'm pretty sure Blue Mage can do it quite easily. How about after this poll I make a little poll and we can figure out if people want to see that? Agibuster, I want you to remember that I just said that it has nothing to do with whether the attack itself crits. I actually said that. It has nothing to do with whether the attack crits normally. It has to be a guaranteed crit. That's what that's what the gimmick is. So that wouldn't actually prove anything. Basically, if you're using an attack to activate Raw Intuition, right? If you're using an attack to activate Raw Intuition, then it rolls for crit on damage and rolls for crit on healing. If you use an attack that itself says always crits, then it will always crit, like both things. So that's why it works with, like, so basically what I'm saying is, Inner Release Decimate does not mean that all of your healing crits, but Infuriate Celtic Cyclone does. That's what matters. So because it has to be an attack that natively says that it crits itself, it has to be the attack itself that says I crit, Sage would need such an action. Ymir says, can't wait to solo Endwalker dungeons in Dawntrail. I mean, we could test soloing dungeons, Endwalker dungeons in Endwalker. The way we would do that is I bring 3 friends, and they queue with me into the dungeon, you know, pre-made, and then they just leave. And then I just do the dungeon. I'm pretty sure that would work. And that is my plan if we get to that point. We probably do. It's okay, Agibuster. Exactly, Space Queen. I've seen people do that with, or I've heard of people doing that with all tanks, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they actually did it with every single tank. Like, just because it was funny. There was like this little meme of doing it for a little bit. Malice? I didn't say Bloodbath. I actually started this entire story with saying the only jobs that have an ability that works like that is Warrior and Sage. So I can explain the difference after this pull. Did people ask in the chat? I didn't even notice, sorry. So the problem is Sage has one component. The problem is Sage doesn't have the other. The thing Sage is missing is it doesn't have any attack that inherently always crits. That's why it can't do the gimmick. So the reason why Bloodbath doesn't work is because Bloodbath heals you for a percentage of the damage it does. So if you use Bloodbath and then Midara Setsugeka, then the healing will be colored greater because the attack is bigger. So if you use Midara Setsugeka, you will heal for more with Bloodbath than you would with Hakase, for example, because it's a percentage of the damage done. But Bloodbath isn't a fixed heal for every action. Raw Intuition is 400 cure potency every time you attack. Cardia on Sage is, I think it's 170 or something like that, every time you attack. That's why they're the same. The problem is, Sage doesn't have any actions that guarantee to crit. That's why they can't guarantee the crit. Oh, the Algibuster asked. Right. Yeah, it has to be a buff that says every time you do thing, heal for X cure potency. And then you need to use an attack that reads like this. Delivers a critical hit with a potency of blah. It has to read exactly like that, otherwise it doesn't work. And the only job that has both is Warrior. Hey, Silvermint, hope you're doing well. Let's see here. I'll put a poll up now. Someone asked. Yeah, exactly, Space Queen. The reason why it doesn't crit is exactly for a similar reason. Because Life Surge makes the attack crit in the exact same way that that Inner Release does. Yeah, thank you for double checking, Malice, by the way, on the Bloodbath thing. I've tested that stuff a while back because it was significant for a warrior guide. And speaking of this gimmick, the reason why I'm presenting it and bringing it up like this is both because it's a fun fact, but also because I'm going to be doing this a lot. Like now that we have Chaotic Cyclone. The thing with Chaotic Cyclone in this level range is that it is nearly the same potency on average as Fell Cleave. I say nearly because Chaotic Cyclone does, I think, slightly more like average damage, but if Fell Cleave happens to like just naturally be a critical direct hit, then Fell Cleave does way more damage. So it's like it's a gamble. But the healing of Chaotic Cyclone will always be better because it's always a crit. Now we also have the weird ability to spend Inner Release stacks. Oops. That's not good. Inner Release stacks or Beast Gauge as we please. That is really bad. Now I have vulnerability stacks for a minute. We shouldn't have greeted like that. Did you know that this is the final boss in Amtabor Keep Hard? Oh yeah! This boss has been around. You can change job in this boss fight. I've seen it on YouTube. Could you imagine if you could switch job in the middle of a boss fight in Final Fantasy XIV? Oh man. The chaos of optimization. I like to imagine that would be like the smoking gun of the development team if they get really tired of all the excessive optimization players do in the game. You just go, you know what? Whatever. You just do whatever you like. We don't care anymore. I mean, yeah, look at the Magi. I'm pretty sure what's actually happening is just like how we see all those like weird imp demon like creatures in a lot of Void stuff. It's just like one of the more powerful creatures there. And by the way, if you hear like weird thudding sounds from outside, it's just because people are shooting fireworks. It's actually illegal. They're not allowed to shoot it now, only on New Year's Eve, but people just don't care. So don't worry about it. Hey Siren, hope you're doing well. Illegal activity stream. Dun 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 dun. I feel like this boss is here. Like I've never gone this far. Are you done? Normally I don't repeat these mechanics this many times. The sound of chains. Thank you, Siren. My best suggestion, Shiro, is if you want to try and make sure you miss, like the best way you could do that is if you can somehow get into Sastasha, but because one of the bosses uses accuracy down on you. But the problem is you kind of have to do it alone. Or bring players with you that lets you do the test, because if you go in with duty support, the duty support will eventually kill the boss. And you might not get enough tests. And you also have to be the tank. But I'm pretty sure that the cast of Bio itself can miss. Nothing else makes sense. You have to remember, Bio is an action that is old enough that it was from the times when hit chance existed. So there shouldn't be any exceptions. Enjoy, Coco. Yeah, you could also test it with blind flaws on in Palace of the Dead. But I'm just saying that what we're testing here is a claim that affects like nearly no one, and the claim is actually like really inverse because it makes no sense that Bio wouldn't miss, like wouldn't be able to miss. At least in my mind, it makes no sense. I mean, I make tests and like test mechanics that doesn't matter for like 99.9% of the player base, so it's not like there isn't any reason to not, like there's always reason to test things, but it was more to say that I don't think that it works like that. Akazen says, do we know what jobs are gonna get reworks in Dawntrail? Dragoon and Astrologian, we've been told that for like a year ago. Something like that. If you have multiple mobs, you could test with Bioblaster. Oh yeah. That you could. So here's a random tip, which makes perfect sense with how game mechanics in Final Fantasy XIV works. If you get an attack speed slow on you, but it is ending in like let's say these Switch Gremlins, they actually make a 2.5 GCD into a 4-second GCD. If the duration on the debuff is like 1.5 seconds or less technically, then it is actually a DPS gain to wait for the debuff to end before you cast anything. Because the way that attack speed modifiers work in Final Fantasy XIV is that they're only checked the second that you start an attack. Like the very first frame is when it actually checks. So if you use an action while you have the slow, then you have the full 4-second GZD that the gremlin blessed you with, if you can call it that. But if you just wait until the debuff ends, then you have your regular 2.5 second GCD. Isn't that interesting? And nope, that's not true, Space Queen. Early in Endwalker, we were told that they were looking to rework both Dragoon and Astrologian shortly after they were like also Paladin. Then a little bit of time passed, and then we were told, the Dragoon and Astrologian reworks are too big for a patch. Which means that the Paladin rework wasn't too big for a patch. And you have to remember that the Summoner rework came as an expansion rework. So presumably we can assume that both the Dragoon and the Astrologian are going to get pretty massive overhauls from that. Like that's what we can assume. Because it would have to be bigger than whatever Paladin got, right? Because if it was a smaller 5.1 Ninja rework, then we would have already had it. And that was what they wanted to do, and then they suddenly decided they wanted to do more than that. Which is why the plan changed. They made a few changes to Dragoon, but nothing rework worthy. The changes they made to Dragoon in Endwalker was they combined Mirage Dive and Jump. And then they reverted that. And then they made it so that jump no longer tracks your makes your camera track your character as you do the jump. But that was actually served with, oh yeah, by the way, this was actually a quality of life that we intended to add with the rework in Dawn Trail. Which means that what that tells us is, well, jump is staying. That's all it tells us. It tells us that jump is staying. But it still means that jump is staying. And is keeping the functionality that it kind of has. We don't know if it's going to stay in the way that it has. Or is it getting such a big rework? We don't know for sure. As someone who has played a significant amount, of Dragoon, but like I'm not exactly a Dragoon main to say the least. I would say that the toolkit of Dragoon feels very weird. It feels very unfocused, which, let me put it like this, I felt the same about Summoner in Shadowbringers. Do we know why the Mirage Dive change got reversed? Yes, because of latency problems. Primarily because of latency problems. The reason that came up is because if you used jump, then and played on a high latency, then the action just wouldn't change to Mirage Dive until your game caught up and was like, oh right, the Mirage Dive buff. Whereas as it is now, I'm pretty sure that Mirage Dive just starts glowing earlier, something like that. And then there was also I believe the jackhammer problem, which sometimes comes up. What I mean by that is because Mirage Dive and Jump doesn't actually share cooldown in any way, you could, like, if you mash the button too hard, you would use Jump and then already have queued up Mirage Dive and be forced to use it immediately, even though you didn't plan to do it like that. Like, you didn't actually want to do that. So that's why they reverted it, was because of, like, a bunch of jank issues. Is there a way to turn it into a single button? I mean, if you made a macro that says AC Mirage Dive, and then, like a bunch of times, and then later down says AC Jump, then it would always use Mirage Dive if you have it, and otherwise use Jump. You could also do it in the opposite direction, because they are never both available. So you could just make a macro with it, but because of how spell queuing works, it would probably feel less responsive. But you could do that. And that's also true, yes. That is true. That part of the reason why Paladin suddenly had to get a rework was because it was not in a very good place according to, like, damage numbers. Like, we had reached a point where groups like Savage groups were actively saying no Paladins. But the thing is, something that is very important to keep in mind when I say that is that people had reached that point, but Paladin wasn't so bad that it couldn't keep up. It was just that it was distinctly weaker than the other tanks. So people started, like, not including it. But Paladin was good enough. It was just that community perception at large had reached a breaking point, if that makes sense. And that, like, Paladin isn't the only one that has had this problem. I don't quite understand that one, Space Queen. All of Dragoon's jumps are OGCDs, so I don't quite get what you're going for there. Say the Dragoon rotation and the two other dives being OGCD, but all of them are OGCD. If anyone is wondering why I keep running around the boss, is that enemies will spend like a frame or two turning to you between attacks. At least in my experience. I haven't actually done like the big science, but there has been proof that in lower level content at least that it works like that. And just stepping away can sometimes cause the enemy to lose like a few frames by stepping over to you before they attack. So I just run around a lot to do that. It helps like the smallest little bit. Every little bit helps. How much damage? 9,000. That's less than the stack marker in Gimlet Dark. But yeah, ultimately, speaking of the Dragoon and Astrologian rework, it's complicated to explain why the rework is happening, because we don't know what the developers are thinking. Like, not exactly. We don't know exactly what they think is a problem and what isn't a problem, right? No, that is incorrect, Shiro. That is not how Dragoon works. That is not how Dragoon works. At least not in an optimal sense. If you're in like, if you have downtimes, that is a different story, but ultimately you always open with Gaishgagul first. Always with Gaishgagul first. and then you just use jump. That happens to have the desired effect of causing your life of the dragon to always line up with your raid buffs and stuff. But yeah, you can flip them. You can, but that is like more minuscule optimization. But you don't actually like normally think about flipping them. That's normally not a thing. I'm very curious what... Oh, that's what you mean. Okay, yeah. Delay Nastrond to the third Geistgegul. What you mean by that is use Geistgegul first. That's basically what I said. Just in a different way. But I mean, I also say it in my guides. So I don't know why you would need to learn it from Whoops. The time where the order between Geistgegul and jump actually comes up as a question at all is if there's downtime, which can cause misalignment with your cooldowns. But if there's no downtime like that, then it is always Geistgegul first. Always. Because that happens to have the desired outcome of causing your Life of the Dragon to land in the minute, like on the minute. Space Queen? Do you mean you're first, Nastrond? I feel you're confusing yourself as well. That's exactly the reason why I was like, what? When you said third Geistgegul is because the numeration like that is very confusing. By using Geistgegul first in your opener, you will actually use Geistgegul with 0 gaze, and then you will use Geistgegul with 1 gaze 30 seconds later, and you will use Geistgegul again with the full gaze of the dragon, which gives you Life of the Dragon, on the 1 minute where Lance Charge is available. That is why you generally always want to use Geistgegul first. The only time where you would ever want to flip them is if there was downtime that caused your Lance Charge to like be shifted by 30 seconds. In which case you might want to flip them. The only other time where you would want to flip them, because there is a really specific optimization, is if the fight is drawing to a close and you will not have another Lance Charge anyway, then you have no reason to sit on it. You can just flip them right then and there and like get 2 Lives of the Dragons back to back. First you get the one with Lance Charge, and then you get one without. It's very weird. But you can probably imagine those that were asking why Dragoon is getting a rework. You can probably see that this is really weird. Like, this is a really, really weird mechanic. Like, extremely awkward. What if they give Dragoon a pet dragon? I mean, this isn't Final Fantasy XI. Exactly, Space Queen. That was what I said. That was what I said. 15 Iron Reaver says, would this be possible realistically on a Gunbreaker as the self-heal of Warrior, the make or break? I don't know if this can be done with Gunbreaker, but of the tanks, Gunbreaker would probably be the second best contender. The thing is that the sheer capacity of self-healing that Warrior has access to puts it light years ahead of the other tanks in this kind of competition. But Gunbreaker might be able to. See, the thing is, the things that Warrior can't beat like this would probably be the same bosses that Gunbreaker can't beat like this. And Gunbreaker doesn't bring enough to the table that it could beat something that Warrior couldn't, I think. But yeah, speaking of the reworks of Dragoon and Astrologian, if you're thinking, well, if they're getting reworked anyway, what's the point of playing them now? My counterpoint to that is, if you don't try them now, you will never try this iteration of Dragoon and Astrologian once they're removed, and you might regret that decision. Better to try them so that you had the opportunity to like them or hate them, rather than never figuring that out. I would highly recommend, despite knowing that those jobs are getting, like, clearly are getting reworked, still try them. Fisherman says, I usually use jump first, then delayed mirage till after. Guys, cool. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. I highly recommend looking up an opener of some sort. You will discover that it is a lot easier to play a job like Dragoon if you're using an efficiently constructed opener. What makes jobs like these really complicated is because if you don't use your cooldowns in a specific order, then when your burst comes up again and all the cooldowns come up again later, when you also have Life of the Dragon things to press, that everything just like clumps into each other and then you can't do anything. So I just really recommend that if you find a job difficult, try and see if you can see the opener. That might be easier with a good opener. And I think Dragoon is a really good example of that. Machinist is also a good example of that. Like, some players will play play Machinist and be like, there's this problem where every time I get Wildfire, it just bonks into all of my other things. And the reason for that is because you actually need to make sure that you've used all of your tools in a very specific way to make sure you've actually made space for Wildfire. I mean, it's just an example, but it's typically a... No, nothing bad about that, Space Queen. The reason why I just said, why would you have to mention that, is because if you say, I learned this thing from Whoops, I'm just like, well, it's also in my guide, so... I'm surprised you didn't learn it from me. Like, if you watch my guides, right? Yeah, that is true, Iron Reaver. The worst that can happen is that you can't do it. The only reason to do this is for fun anyway, so you're not exactly losing time. Actually, I have like a 1 or 2 minute video on Life of the Dragon where I talk in depth about this whole thing with the order of the cooldowns and why it matters and what you can do with it. Actually, I've spent a lot of time on that. Specifically that. And as Space Queen also says, the reworks are for Dawn Trail. So, if you're choosing to not play a job because it's getting reworked in half a year's time, I mean, what's the point of playing any job, right? When Dawn Trail comes out, all of those openers and rotations we've mastered in Endwalker will all be meaningless because we've gotten 10 levels of actions. Right? We're going to start over again. That's kind of the problem with a perpetually expanded universe like an MMO, is that because they keep adding stuff, eventually the stuff that you learn to like stops being relevant. Oh boy. It is mildly annoying that these packs you can't AoE pull them. Mainly because I have to do these packs in basically this way, whether there's 4, 8 or 10 mobs. Fisherman, I do believe Astrologian in Stormblood had an attack that happened to have... well, they didn't have an attack. I think it was just an ability that stunned enemies. And it was not gravity. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. But the thing is, I don't think how much... I don't know how significant that would have ever been, considering that you wanted to stack accuracy anyway. Like, by early to mid Heavensward, we had already reached the point where healers started to stack accuracy for attacking all the time. So, I don't know if that ever was important, is what I'm thinking. Like, if your healers are already bringing accuracy in Heavensward. But that might be true. That that Astrologian specifically didn't need accuracy for their stun because it didn't do damage, and that would of course help with Shiro's research. Oh boy, these mobs take a lot of time. I feel like there's really something to it when people say, are the expert roulette dungeons a lot easier than the leveling dungeons? Like, maybe we're onto something. Yeah, Iron Reaver, my suggestion there is, as you can see, what I'm doing is that I'm often running away from mobs. Like, even 2 mobs here, I can just run away here and then I take less damage. You just need to, like, if you don't have a lot of self-healing, you have to do that way more. You will probably have to use Aurora on cooldown. You might even have to, like, just break your combos in half and just do Brutal Shell, like 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. But then you're doing nearly no damage, and if you're doing that little damage, as you can see my timer, I've already spent half of the dungeon timer, and I'm trying to go as fast as I possibly can. So you might not actually have enough time to clear Holminster Switch. If you, like, go carefully at it like that. And yeah, that is true. I mean, it does seem like the the general consensus is that we are doing Gimlet Dark with Blue Mage after this. And an interesting thing regarding that Iron Reaver is... whoops, I messed up that combo. Is that it's been a while. Back when we were still doing a Realm Reborn stuff on these streams. We went into Wanderer's Palace, the Tonberry one, at minimum item level, which not gonna happen, with Scholar. We discovered that by using weird dot tricks, because you can actually pull a single mob out of a pack, by letting yourself die to the pack, and then just making sure that a dot ticks on the mobs after you're resurrected again, like after you respawn. And it was possible to kill the mobs on minimum item level one at a time, but each mob took like 2 minutes. So... we didn't actually finish on that, but like it's just, that's like, if you have to single target mobs down extremely slowly, then you have to start looking at the time, that's what I'm trying to say. Unfortunately. But yeah, you can also see that the only reason why I can get a lot of AoE uptime is because I go up to the mobs while I have our lovely, lovely raw intuition. So it's not surprising that other tanks would find it nearly impossible. By comparison. And yeah, exactly, Matthew. It's a combination of item level, and then I don't know if the mobs just scale weird or something. But Gimlet Dark was incredibly easy, except for the final boss having an insurmountable DPS check. Which means we can probably beat it with Blue Mage. But you know, Fisherman, that is actually really interesting data. I wish you had it like, you know, on record or something, like on video, so that we could see it. Because that's generally the problem with these like really old things, is that people didn't necessarily test these things or record them. So it might be hard to actually see if it worked like that or worked slightly differently than that. But I wish we could see it. But I think if that is actually something you had to deal with, it sounds very possible that Shiro's early assumption that something that doesn't do upfront damage doesn't actually rely on accuracy in the same way. Which is strange. Is it not? Right, so in summary, the thing that makes this boss potentially impossible for anyone curious is that a little bit into the fight, it will mark one player, chain them, and the only way to escape, I believe it disappears on its own after the big cone blast or something like that. Like, it actually ends at some point. The problem is that you have to both survive that laser, like that blast, and potentially some auto attacks. I don't think we can do that. And it's a very easy test. Like, if I get ruffle stomped immediately, then there's nothing I can do, because the chains last like 20 or 30 seconds. So the only thing I can bring for it is Shake It Off. Like, that is the only cooldown I can bring. Just make sure you have home gang. You're stunned for over 10 seconds, Space Queen, before the attack lands. What? What's with you guys and always being like, oh, just use home gang, Lamau. It's always home gang. Did you solo... you say you soloed this on Gunbreaker? Do you mean unsynced? The party died. Well, he only uses the chain thing a set number of times. So if your party died after that... See, here it comes. Well, I used Shake It Off. I got a little off on the timing there. But this is the mechanic. Okay, we can survive that. Okay, now, okay, we have a fight on our hands. It can be done. We can live. Okay, we might be able to do it. I also expected way more damage, Space Queen. Oh, the three Vuln stacks are not pretty, no. Hopefully I can... Ow! Live. Oh my god. What? Only 11? Again, I expected way more. What's happening? I'm going to die because I wasted all of my big cooldowns on something that wasn't actually a problem. Now this is a good mechanic. Keep doing that, Philia. That was what I was thinking, Space Queen. Well, you know what? Thank you for that insight, Iron Reaver. I think he only uses the chains a set number of times, so we might be able to recover from this and stabilize. I'm pretty sure he only does it like once or twice. It might even be HP based. Not 100% sure on that, though. Ow. I should make sure to keep a Infuriate in reserve whenever I can, so that I can get more healing out of Raw Intuition. Oh, he's doing it again. Oh boy. I didn't use any cooldowns this time, so now we'll know for sure how much damage it does. I looked at all my cooldowns and went, oh. But it's only 3 hits. Yeah, I guess it's indeed, it's probably not HP based, so we'll just have to deal with that repeatedly. I should have used Thrill of Battle with that. I'm really dumb. You were worried you were gonna die. Hey, I might have to pay for my mistake of overestimating the attack for the entire fight. Because I'm like using everything I have on cooldown. I think I'm finally catching up. Like now I have Raw Intuition ready, and I have a potion in a moment, and I'm on full HP. Like it's starting to look brighter. And no, that's not a pun. It's starting to look brighter. Into the light. Blah! But yeah, I genuinely thought it was just going to outright kill you. But apparently it doesn't. I'll try and use Rampart. Maybe it'll last for a tick. I'll also know exactly how long it lasts. Okay, Rampart would do nothing. The charge up is like... Is that 15 or 17 seconds? It looks like it hit on the first 2 ticks. So that's at least not nothing. Ow! Felt like that did more damage than the previous times. Now people know they don't have to deal with the chain mechanic. Well, I don't think the tank ever gets targeted by it normally, and anything else would die. Hey Min-Mei, hope you're doing well. I think the calculation on that is more complicated, Space Queen. I can't remember exactly how it went, but back when we were doing Castrum Urbania, we discovered that on the second boss we had this thing where we had to survive Vuln stacks, and if I remember correctly, an additional Vuln stack was like, it seemed like it was an exponential damage increase and not an additive one, but I didn't like do too much research into that, so it might just have been like that it looked like that and wasn't actually like that. Yeah, I'm not sure. But you might be right on that. The thing is that a DPS can't tank this, so it's not a particularly helpful observation. It's like, oh yeah, well, you're still going to die. Ow. I think I've messed up my cooldowns. Finally! That was what I was waiting for. I was like, well, I feel like there's a point where I get like some breathing room. It's the thing with tanks and like in soloing stuff is actually very interesting. If you've ever heard people talk about Blue Mage soloing, and you will often meet a lot of Blue Mages that will be like, oh, you have to use healer mimicry because otherwise you don't have enough healing to survive. This is actually the same problem as you may have heard some people say, oh yeah, the thing is with healers not attacking and just spamming heals is that because they're spamming heals, your group ends up, specifically your tank, ends up taking way more damage, which makes the extra spam healing you're doing necessary. But if you had just not done that, then you wouldn't have needed to spam heal in the first place. It's the same problem with Blue Mage, is that if you had just mimicked tank, you wouldn't have taken all that damage you would need to heal. And that's the same logic with tanks having insane amounts of defense. And yeah, the way more HP also helps, of course. Hey, welcome back, Lemon. And yeah, pretty much 11. That wasn't the most effective cooldown order, but I think I needed it. Guess I'll just use Holmgang. We're almost there. How long has this fight been? I remember we finished up like the last trash pack when there was like half of the dungeon timer left, which I believe it meant 45 minutes left. It's been so long. I've grown a beard. No, wait, I had that one before we started. We've celebrated a few birthdays. Dungeon Master! Lemon says, I had a beard shaved and grew another one. Still not done? Alright. Space Queen says, is it ever correct to thrill into Shake? If I recall correctly, it dispels the thrill buff but gives you a bigger shield. Yes and no. So, Thrill of Battle increases your max HP by 20%. It also just gives you 20% of your max HP, like before the extra increase, as healing. So, like, I just get 20% of this as healing. And then you also increase your max HP. So if you use it at full HP, you will still receive the healing, is basically what it does. But if your current HP is less than 120% of your normal max HP, then losing Thrill of Battle does nothing at this level. A very important asterisk to that. When you get this trait, it's not the same, because technically this increases the healing you receive, so then it's like a more complicated question, because, well, are you going to receive healing in this time frame? And things like that. But if you're only thinking about the max HP part of Thrill of Battle, then if you're not at this expanded max HP anyway, then Thrill of Battle is basically nothing burger, doesn't do anything. So using Shake It Off to delete it is basically fine. Because Shake It Off steals your Thrill of Battle, Vengeance, and Raw Intuition, like cancels them early to increase the amount of barrier that Shake It Off applies. But if you're alone, in nearly all situations, you would want to use Shake It Off, then Vengeance, then Raw Intuition, or something like that, so that you get to keep all three. But the reason why you might want to use Shake It Off with Vengeance or Raw Intuition still up is, let's say the attack you need to block is coming in 5 seconds, but Vengeance has 4 seconds left. Then Vengeance does nothing for that specific attack, which means you would benefit from just spending it on Shake It Off instead of letting Vengeance drop. Like, you're basically trading Vengeance, which isn't doing anything, for extra barrier. So the answer is yes and no in regards to Thrill of Battle, because sometimes you would rather keep Thrill of Battle. But in a solo situation, it depends on whether you're going to make use of the HP that Thrill of Battle gives you. And thank you. It's been 84 years, 4 scores, and several YouTubes ago. It's actually, I'm surprised that we have gotten used to this thing where we would get a dungeon done in less than an hour. Because I've been used to, like, earlier, there's, like, I would want to remind you that when we did Castrum, we timed out originally. Like, we had to go back in for round 2. Now, there was a little vote here, and there's a pretty massive landslide majority that said, yes, please do Gimlet Dark with Blue Mage. So we are doing Gimlet Dark with Blue Mage. We're going to attempt it. So let's see, what spells do I need and what spells do I not need? Can I convince any of you here to switch to a tank, by the way? Thank you so much for the super chat, Emir. It says, well done. Also, bleed. Thank you. I really appreciate it. We took so long, the astral era changed. Okay, the Magi says, where on earth is Blade from again? The meme on this channel is from Golbez. And also Durante in Lunar Subterrane, because it's same voice actor and stuff. But that's where it originated from. If you watch my 10,000 subscribers special, look at the Magi, it actually includes the origin of the Blades meme. Ymir, the joke is that it's not a spoiler if I just say it's the same voice actor. Also, the I have a video about that meme. Yeah, that is true. Ether to fortify my blade. Light or dark, I need power. Light or dark, it matters not. Yeah, that is where the where our joke comes from. It was because we were doing Golbez Extreme with Zip and Greensville Thessa on Discord. I think later Natsu also came on. And I was being like pseudo raid leader, so I was calling out mechanics to the best of my ability. So every time he did like the cleave thing where he cleaves half the room and then the other half, I said blade. Well, I said blade, and then it started to gradually become blade. And I said it twice, which caused a lot of people to start noticing, which then meant that it started to become a little thing in the chat that whenever I said it, people started spamming the whoopsie-kai emote and or saying blade. So that's how that came about. And yes, Sharo was also there. I do believe we actually had a full party of people that were watching the stream eventually. And one of them was indeed Shadow. Right, the Blue Mage spell thing. Is there anything that I need or don't need? I don't need Moon Flute. Why do I have Moon Flute? What? Shira says, Kai, when there's enough people to make extra groups during stream runs. I dare say we'll be faster if we split up. You thought it was actually Kaitsuchaichi channel. It's actually Durante channel. Members to fortify my blade. Is there anything that I've forgotten? I think I have everything. Everything that I want. Rematch. So I really hope this goes a little bit faster. Lemon says, members to fortify my blade. It's gonna cause another gift apocalypse. Not that that's a bad thing. I don't know if it will. But it was pretty funny that day when the floor was really, really slippery. Excuse me? Excuse me? Ow, 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 ow. I'm using that HP, you know? Easy. I did forget both of those. Thank you, Lukatamaji. Somehow we still made it. Says a lot about how insane Blue Mage is. Thank you. Trevor says, ah yes, Blue Mage. You need to actually level that at some point. Eventually. I need more members. Paid or gifted, it matters not. Wow. That's really funny. But also sounds incredibly mean in a way. Right, Bristle, and hi. Bonk you once, and then you get this, and this. Oh. I don't care. That would have been done 9,000. This might, however, be a problem. Or not. Now, let's see. Are you immune to missile? You are immune to missile. Fair enough. That's probably for the best. Otherwise, this would be incredibly dull. Lemon says, for 20k we could have Katsuchaji out of context compilation. I mean, if you make enough clips of me out of context, I might have an easier time making a compilation. The problem is that to make such a compilation, I would have to, you know, watch through every stream after the fact to find them myself. But if you actually clip it and post in the stream clips channel every time I do something funny, then there's a better chance that I can find it and make compilations of it. Yeah, like like get the clips, post the clips, and I will try my best to put something together when there is something. I think I can survive this. I mean, I wasn't wrong, but I'll not do that again. I think I can survive this. Survives with an inch of HP. Exactly 1 inch. I don't need to do that. Just need to heal up enough that I can do rehydration, then I'll be fine. Yeah, 1 HP is all you need. Of course, that's how it works. And with the current trend, Blue Mage will be level 90 late in Dawn Trail. Quick finish them with Final Sting. Oh. Speedrun time! Bam!
I shan't hold back.
Fair enough, Pippin. However, I would like the mobs to come with me all the same. To kill the Colossus before Lise does. If he takes my favorite credit card called Missile, then I probably will. Otherwise, probably not. But if he takes Missile currency, then I will absolutely kill it immediately. Speaking of Missile currency, what? Oh, that also fully resists it. Interesting. Maybe there's no point in bringing Missile here. Crypto Missile. Let me just wait for my MP. Also, Ymir, if you want to gift more members, it's all up to you. It's up to you. I unfortunately I can't in good conscience advise you on that. Your Missile card keeps bouncing. Shucks! I was really hoping it would work this time. Alright, I'll just not use Subanaka then. It's going to be like that. Okay. How much damage is this? Not so bad. As long as I have Swift Cast, there's no reason to blow my bank on using White Wind. We're almost there. Here we go. The reason why Swift cast is because rehydration takes a long time to cast compared to White Wind, but rehydration actually heals, like, typically for more, in a way. Like, typically for more. And because of that, you would generally prefer to use that one if you can. It doesn't cost very much, but because of the long cast time, it is typically better to use White Wind to avoid the other problems. Also, thank you, Min May, for the super chat. Thank you. Keep it up. Thank you. Oh, right. Is this the guy that I want to test? Do you take missile? Does not take missile. Why does no one take raw missile currency anymore in this day and age? That is true, Shiro. The thing that makes this a little crazy is that basic instincts makes me do double damage, and also makes it so that the damage, like the reduced damage output that Mighty Guard puts on me, is ignored. So I do something like 3 and a bit more damage than a normal Blue Mage tank would. I also have permanent sprint. Like, that also matters. Could you imagine how OP Blue Mage would be if it also got dual cast? You know, if Blue Mage got dual cast, that's like its main weakness, is that it has to cast everything. It doesn't even get proper defensive cooldowns because it has to cast them. Look at me! I have a frontal positional, don't you know? It's just basic instincts that makes solo Blue Mage really, like, just insane. And then also Ultra Vibration is kind of good too, because you can just... And... Is this the one? Oh, there's another one. Oops. As one. As multiple. As many. Actually, I think Lee's can already one-shot it now with the limit break. I think it did like 70%.
Time to get serious.
Nice. Now, there's not really much reason for me to hold back and wait. I'll just wait for my MP things, but other than that, might as well just go for it. The only thing that matters here is the DPS check at the end. As long as I can survive anything they throw at me. There's actually some possibility that they'll just thwack me with... oh, I forgot my intelligence burst potions. Whatever. But I just need to have everything for the grand finale. Other than that, I just need to like gradually whittle them down. Who's starting? You? Okay. A really interesting little gimmick with White Wind is that if you actually manage to deliver White Wind so that the slide casting window happens in the time frame before the hit lands, when the snapshot, so the slide casting window is actually also the window where it snapshots how much HP you had, and White Wind just heals for however much HP you had. So if you can time it just right, I mean, you can just take all of your HP and damage and just heal it again. Omae wa mou shindeiru. But are you done? I think, Ymir, that Elise is actually in party with like a bunch of NPCs in the area. Just like, I'm sure that's what's actually happening. Right, so for this part, I'm just going to be like really sandbagging it. Just really slacking it. Because I want to be sure that I have everything. And now you might be saying, you're doing an enormous amount of damage for someone who's saying you're sandbagging it. And you're right. You're correct. Blue Mage is insane. Thank you. I wonder if you can survive the enrage hit on blue. Oh yeah, it did like, well, it did like 18,000 on a warrior. Well, it would have done. It did 170,000 if I remember correctly. Sandbagging meaning, if you're sandbagging it, then it means that you're basically just letting your opponent just wail on you. Like, you often say you're sandbagging if you're intentionally playing poorly, for example. Omae wa mou shindeiru. Flap. Just running up to me just to scare me. I didn't even get through like a third of my cooldowns. What? Yeah, it's kind of like throwing, Ymir. The difference is that if you're throwing, you're like specifically trying to lose, I think. Whereas sandbagging it, you might just be intentionally playing poorly. And sometimes you can sandbag it for some unexplainable reason. Like, maybe you're sandbagging for some reason. Like, for example, in my case, I'm sandbagging it for a bit because I'm not spending anything. And yeah, exactly, Major Clanger. Compared to how hard it was for Warrior, just easy game with Blue Mage is always funny. Still, it took like 18 minutes. It took 17 minutes and 16 seconds. But I think we had cleared the first boss by 17 minutes on Warrior. But Blue Mage is always like this. If Blue Mage if there isn't some sort of thing in the particular dungeon or raid even that prevents Blue Mage from doing it, then then Blue Mage will do it way better than any other job. That's also why I started my best jobs for soloing content guide or list, ranking list video with, yeah, Blue Mage wins. We know that. We all know that Blue Mage wins. Because Blue Mage is completely off the charts. Like, it's so insanely overpowered compared to a normal job that it's not even funny. Now, I feel like we should finish up with Dawn Meg. I think we'll do that. However, I will have to be right back before we do that. But I do think, and we will do Dawn Meg as warrior, of course. But I will be right back, and then we do Dawn Meg. Rarity was odd. He's been away a while. Was he here yesterday? Alright, I'm back. Also, hey Angel, I hope you're doing well. Look how the Magi says Sado can LB3 solo because she summons a bunch of walls first, right? I mean, in the fight with Sado, where she just LBs out of nowhere, she actually summons a meteor that is 60 seconds away. So she actually summons a far inferior meteor to the player. Trevor says, any ideas on what the new limited job could be in Dawntrail? I believe there's a really strong idea that it is almost certainly going to be Beastmaster or something like that. Because of something that happened at a recent the most recent fan fest, that everyone was screaming for Beastmaster. So, like, if they're teasing that there's a new limited job coming and it is not Beastmaster, let me just put it like this: they didn't do anything to try and calm the audience down. Like, oh, maybe not Beastmaster or anything. I believe they even said, oh yeah, Beastmaster, Puppet Master maybe. Like they added fuel to the fire. So if it's not something with a pet, I don't know what it could possibly be. So it's probably going to be Beastmaster. You did get Green Mage. That would actually be extremely funny. So I've actually... So part of what would make it a little bit less exciting to do this as Blue Mage is back when they made the max level for Blue Mage 80, I actually soloed this bit up to the first boss and the first boss with Blue Mage to get the spell from him. The candy cane thing. So it wouldn't be like, I would be like, yeah, of course I can solo that because I already did, right? Already did that. So it wouldn't be particularly exciting. Ooh, there's a ranged mob in the pack. That is the scariest part about this. It's also the tankiest mob in the pack, I think. That's fun. Oh yeah, now our Mithril Tempest actually gives me Beast Gauge, so that's nice. And this dungeon is quite strong, but the thing that makes this particular pack particularly scary is if you don't interrupt the FFXIV at the start. Then it gets extra unfunny. So the thing I'm going to start running into that is going to be a regular problem is that Decimate's really delayed attack also means that it really delays the healing. I have actually died previously by opening with Decimate when I was really low on HP in some dungeons. So that is a very real possibility that could happen. It seems like it's the same with Chaotic Cyclone. That it doesn't actually do damage until the full animation has played. Now, this is actually a good example of a dungeon where it feels a lot harder than it is because of some gimmick that the game isn't particularly good about explaining to you. Like the interrupting the FFXIV. It's similar to how the male Darkhold has the jerk anglerfish. Everyone knows about the jerk anglerfish? Your average jerk anglerfish of A Realm Reborn? Yeah, exactly, the one that gives the physical damage debuff. Exactly. The reason why it has become the jerk anglerfish is because for some reason every time there is an anglerfish mob in an A Realm Reborn dungeon, it always has some sort of extremely evil trick up its sleeve. Like there's a jerk anglerfish in Sastasha. There is one. Exactly one. And I have previously on stream said what it actually does. Does anyone remember? Would you like to wager a guess what the jerk anglerfish of Sastasha does? Exactly, Cranberry. It has a raid buff for some reason. Why? Just gives everyone a damage bonus. Surprise exam, indeed. Maybe I shouldn't have gone that deep on them when I don't have my best cooldowns. Well, the strategy I've been using since, like, Heavensward dungeons even, has only been improved. The mobs just require it of me now. Ow. Running in the 90s. Ow. What hit me there? That did so much damage. Oh, I should not have used those cooldowns in that order. That was really, really, really dumb. I just wasted my raw intuition. I should not have done that. it is a little on the edge, yeah, Lemon. It's just on the cusp of being possible at this point. But it would actually take longer to do these packs one at a time. I know that might sound ridiculous considering how much time I spent just running back and forth. But the thing is, I would have had to run back and forth like this, even if it was just half of the mobs. So it doesn't really change anything. As long as we don't wipe, this is the most effective way to do this, time-wise. And yeah, I could imagine that, Traverse. I also generally, like, if you're doing this on your own, right? Like, if you're doing it as, like, with duty support and stuff like that, then you have no reason to do, like, mega AoE pulls. Like, no reason to. This is a great opportunity to, like, learn what each pack does. Like, by pulling them one at a time, you have a better chance of understanding, oh, this pack does this pack does that. So you can understand it. This is something that we often do with these solo challenge things, is that because the mobs get to, like, do something, we often get to go, oh, this mob does this mob does that. For example, I've noticed that this Etane moth, it does this attack called Proboscis, which is apparently a ranged attack, which is a tank buster. And the basket uses Straight Punch, which it will just, like, it will just prep it. And when it finally reaches me, it just goes whap. So both of those mobs would be considerably more important to kill first. And the only reason why they dropped in priority is simply because, well, the Fwath is ranged. And you learn that by the mobs being allowed to run around and do stuff. But you would have to, like, pull them one at a time to really see each pack do their thing. So the basket basically does the Dark Souls mushroom thing, I guess. You know, weirdly, that reminds me that in Aurum Vale, the mushrooms in the first room are really scary because every second auto attack or so, they do a tank buster that hits about as hard as their auto attack. It just doesn't have a cast time, so people don't notice. Fun. And that is actually something that tends to be the case when you're doing a Realm Reborn dungeon and you're like, this pack hits really hard. It's almost always half or most of the mobs have a tank buster for some reason. I mean, this is so it's funny so how quiet everything went after you finished killing the pack. Yeah, you take that, and then the Shadowbringer's rock chimes in for a little bit. And here's a tip for this mechanic, and you'll notice me do this for the entire boss. Step over where it just exploded, because he does not place a new whirl where he just had one explode. Ever. Ever, ever. So it's absolutely safe to stand there. So you can just alternate between 2 points that way. Makes it way... Oh no, I didn't know he had that. That was kind of weak again. What's happening with these stack markers? Hey Wolf, it's been a while. Hope you're doing well. It's going nice. We managed to actually beat Holminster Switch. I didn't think it was possible, but we did it. So you see, I'm standing here. I'm watching this one on the right. On the left. On the left. Nothing. Straight through. My rotation kind of stopped completely because I was busy teaching, but I hope it makes sense. And I'm taking the time to try and explain it because I know a lot of people find it very difficult. It says, didn't Square Enix rebalance these dungeons and Endwalker to make them not as punishing? I don't believe so, no. Pretty sure that it's just called power creep. They had a stat squish that they applied with Endwalker, which might have adjusted some numbers, which can have had a side effect of doing that. But I don't feel like it was like that at any point. For the most part, I felt like some things have been like made slightly harder because they were a little too hands off on the adjustment. Like they didn't squish the boss HP hard enough and things like that. But that's just me. I don't know if that's actually how it went or if it's just me feeling it weird. It could also just be something else. Like people are just like the players that I'm getting paired with are just not as good or something. Who knows? But I don't recall there being a boss nerf, so to speak. I do remember what made me very scared of this boss when I was doing it as Blue Mage now, because he has a lot of heavy hitters. Like he goes with the stack marker and then the tank buster and all that. Like this Landsblot thing is really nice because it gives me a chance to recover. We're around halfway there. I don't think any other tank could do this. He does so much damage. It's absolutely insane. I'm using all of my healing specifically. Because he's spreading it out so perfectly. Clemency spam doing Lance Blood? Well, maybe. The thing that you would have to do is that, like, the thing is, you don't actually care about, like, what you'd need to do is get the healing during the time frame where he's dealing it. Like, he's doing the damage here, and then I'm kind of just sitting there waiting for him to do something. For quite a while after that. Because, like, the Lance Blood is just, like, the down period. I think the problem with Paladin would be that you would be spending all of the time between sets just recovering MP. Just going 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 to recover as quickly as possible. So your damage would be terrible, but maybe Paladin, because of that, yeah, it's possible. I also have to make sure that I'm using my defensive cooldowns as absolutely late as possible, because then there's at least a chance that it'll, like, overlap with the next mechanic he throws at me. Exactly, Travis. It's just Clemency, and then I guess you have Divine Veil with a small heal on it, I think? Or does that heal get added later? It's very, very tight for Paladin. Like, the reason I'm saying I don't think any other one could do it is because anything, like, every time Paladin comes up, it's like, well, a Warrior can basically do anything Paladin can do, pretty much. So that's why I keep forgetting about it. But I do suppose Paladin would be the one that had the self-sustain to maybe match this. The question is whether it would actually be able to, you know, finish the dungeon in time. Yep, Space Queen, and I just wanted to know that we have not wiped Holmgang for insurance. Could you imagine? We've not wiped. That would be classic me. Oh, no one's died yet. Blap. Yeah, exactly, as Lemon says, that basically all content before Shadowbringers, pretty much all duties, like dungeons especially, where you can use duty support, have been made easier in a way, like somehow. At least either in like actual nerfing, but usually in like a mechanical sense they have been like adjusted. Because that makes it easier for the not very smart duty support NPCs to do it. Alright, I think that's all I have. Now I can't have to start running. Those mobs are chunky. A really awkward thing with the duty support things, I think we've talked about this on stream before, but basically turns out that the duty support NPCs are actually adjusting their kill times to make sure that it takes a while to do the dungeons. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is go into Sastasha, choose any job you like. It's probably more obvious if you choose like a DPS, because then you'll see one of each role. The healer doesn't do anything particularly spectacular. It just kinda heals, right? But the warrior NPC does not use Berserk until a certain amount of time has passed. And it will only use Berserk to kill the mob it is currently attacking. Pretty much. And the Black Mage, or the Thaumaturge, will just randomly throw out a massive, like a gigantic thundercloud proc that just cleaves the mob in half after a certain amount of time. And now you have to remember, Thundercloud isn't available in Sastasha, so I don't know how the Black Mage does that, or Thaumaturge, but it just does. So like they're specifically designed to be worse, as Traverse says. They've specifically designed them to be the worse than players, which makes sense. Like they're intentionally made bad so that you are incentivized to play with other players, because it's not efficient. And could you imagine if it was more efficient to do it in duty support? That wouldn't be very nice, because then it would have this effect of... like, what would that do to the part of the community that likes to do dungeons together? Like, would it mean that you would just have, like, the inverse hyper-elitists that go, hey, now, if you're going to speedrun the dungeon, you might as well just go duty support. Get out of here with this wall-to-wall pulling. I mean, Viek, if you're going to pull that card, I want to remind you that there has been a title for soloing Palace of the Dead for years before duty support started to exist. That's true, Dan Fernov. That is true. There has been times where the squadrons were faster. They might still be, if you use them in a specific way, I guess. But I think it also depends on how you use them. I think the big problem is that to get max ranked squads, you would have to invest a lot of time, and by the time you've done that, you could probably have leveled any job you're actually interested in beyond the point where squads can help you. I imagine. And also, I think it might be for the best if they, the squadron system seems like something they've kind of just neglected for an extremely long time. It might be better that they just, either rework it or get rid of it if it's not going to be built on. Similar to how the Grand Company ranks. There's, 8 ranks that you can't get. And they, it has been like this since, I think, Stormblood I don't think they've added to those ranks in Stormblood. They've just been there unavailable for all this time. Which I also think doesn't look very good. Like, it's like a bar you can't fill, and there are certainly some players that would find that very discouraging. And would make it feel like the game isn't being, like, maintained very well when they have, like, weird outliers like that. If I remember correctly, this boss only pulls down ads to eat twice? Maybe I think only twice. And he only brings enough down for each of us, weirdly. he's very nice like that. He brings enough food for all of us. Oh yeah, he's also the guy with the no warning tank buster, so I need to stay healthy. I think it did 8k? It does do the buffs Valkyries, but he only makes one for each of us. So the question is how many times he does it. If he spams it, then I have a problem. But if he only does it a set amount of times, then this is fine. I should have saved my AoE for this. That would have been way smoother. I'll do that next time. Now we have one. Since it's how long have you been playing? Do you mean today or do you mean in general? In general, well, I've played on and off since Stormblood, but I've had like a consistently active subscription since mid Shadowbringers. I did it again. I can check my actual like playtime after this fight, if you would like. Also, this boss has only taken a third of its HP. Wow. This is what we call a chonker. How many times does it need to grow? I think 3 or 4 times. Which would mean that it is probably going to be now. But we'll know for certain. Like, if it just smacks me out like that, then, I mean, there's nothing I can do, right? See, now we have a problem because he's bigger than me. Because I'm already capped. That's true, Traverse. We can always come back and do it with Blue Mage for the fun of it. But I generally try to do it with a normal job if we can. That's also why I was like, not just going in with Blue Mage for Gimlet Dark. It was something we voted on. Because some people might not find that very entertaining. To just watch me ruffle stomp the dungeon with a job that is absolutely not supposed to be there. He's still not finished, apparently. Weird. I thought he finished at like 4. Genuinely, I thought that was how high he got. It is quite interesting because if he actually keeps going until he's so big that he just kills you, then it means that this boss technically has a DPS check. It's just like ridiculously long, but he technically would have a DPS check by that logic. What the? Okay, his auto attacks are doing 34,000 per hit. Right. Yeah, true. He has a hard enrage. You could even say. There's nothing you can do there. Nothing. He had a 27% HP left. I would have to find like 30 or 40% DPS for the entire fight to be able to do that. I mean, I can try one more time just to see if we can do it better, but I don't think we can beat it. We'll give it one more shot. I don't think we can beat it, but I want to see how close we can get. Part of the problem is I also need my healing potions to just stay alive. So I can't go, oh, just use burst potions, then I'll just die. We have to use everything. Let me just check something here. Yep, still better. We can probably do it on blue. It just depends on if we can survive his damage, which we probably can. Space Queen says strength pots also do not give you 30% damage. That is true. They give like 10% at best. Like around 10%. And it's only for 30 seconds. And it would be like 2 or 3 times throughout the fight at most. But it would come at the cost of around 110,000 healing over the course of the fight. Something like that. Or up to. The healing would just be way better. So what I have to do is try to make sure that every single Coiling Vine is dealt with Chaotic Cyclone, which I'm going to be using anyway. And beyond that, I just have to make sure that I'm doing doing my rotation perfectly. That was extremely dumb. I just messed everything up there. Didn't lose any damage, but I certainly didn't use my resources efficiently. A difficult thing with this fight as well is that he has a no warning tank buster, and I'm not entirely sure when he uses it. Optimally, I want to make sure that I have a defensive cooldown running every time he does it. But I'm not entirely sure when that would be. I messed up again. In my aim to try and preserve as many Chaotic Cyclones as possible, I lost like 5 to 10. I think I've wasted at least like 10 seconds of Infuriate. At least. Another 10 out the window? Well, another 10 beast gauge, notably. It would also be really nice if that particular Chaotic Cyclone could overlap with me using Raw Intuition. That magic just doesn't seem to happen. So now I'm doing the maximum possible damage I can do. I'm pretty sure this increases damage. Pretty sure I didn't actually pay attention to that. I should have used that 1 second sooner. It's a little awkward that you can only grow twice. That was a really good sequence. Got the Chaotic Cyclone with Raw Intuition. If that'll let me get by a little more easily for something upcoming. Slightly more healing. Ow. I don't think we're getting much further this time. Good night, Min Mei. So I can also, on the positive side of everything, I can very, very aggressively just throw my defensive cooldowns out there, because it's not going to help me when he becomes real big. That's right, he's not become real big yet. He's still working on it. 25%. There's no point healing anything, because one attack, I'm dead. But how close can we get? 21%. I mean, we pushed it from 27 to 21%. But this can't be done. This is not doable. Do we want to try with blue? Did everyone fall asleep? Ding ding! Match is over. Did the dulcet tones of the Shadowbringers boss mid-boss theme lull you all to sleep? Well, now you already know you can do it with blue. Yeah. That is true. I did the first boss with blue. If I remember correctly, when I did it to get the spell from the first boss, I found it so difficult that it was like, I don't want to do the rest of the dungeon just for the fun of it, because only the first boss had something. Silverman says, is this the end of the solo challenge? No, that's not how this works. The way that we do this is, if it's not possible to solo something synced, then either we just, like, we give it a good shot, give it a good try, so that it cannot be said that we didn't try. Because there's a difference between going, I couldn't beat it first try, what's the point? And, like, exhausting your options. And the thing is, this boss is actually a boss with a hard enrage. And either you can beat it or you can't. And the boss ending on 21% still means that I would have to do around 25% more damage, which I can't get that from anywhere. Like, that's way too much. So that's not happening with a normal job. Not synced. You could do it unsynced. Maybe you need just a few levels. I don't know for sure. But you can't do it at level. So what we'll do is, like, next time we would be trying Kitana Rabble, I suppose. Is there anything there? I don't think any of the bosses in Kitana Rabble has anything that would outright prevent you from soloing them. VX says, can you do the DPS check on the final boss solo? Oh, you mean in the illusion thing? Absolutely. A healer can do that. I've done that. Like, just in groups where people just fail the bridge One person can do it. You just have to do, like, get over as quickly as possible. So I'm pretty confident that we could do that, but we can't beat the second boss. So like that's what we then observed, and we can't do that. We could try with Blue Mage. I know Blue Mage can do it, because if there's one thing Blue Mage isn't lacking, it's damage. It might have a hard time with the second boss and all of its sheer magnitude of DPS. But the boss would die in like a quarter of the time, something like that. So it would just be a DPS race rather than a hardened rage. You know, we could also just take that next time. It is getting rather late for the streams for our solo streams. Yeah, exactly, Dorsey. It is doable. And it doesn't surprise me. VX says, do casters even have to do the bridge? You can't actually attack him if you're not inside his circle. He's invulnerable if you're not in the circle. It's like Bismarck and how you have to be on its back to hit it. So yeah, that wouldn't work. But yeah, exactly, Dorsey. It can absolutely be done. Some people like to see it. But we could discuss it on the for the next stream, whether we circle back and do Dawn Mech Blue Mage there. Otherwise, we'll just do Kitana Rabble. But I am surprised that we could do Holminster Switch with Warrior. That did surprise me, that we could do that. It's really funny that that cone AoE doesn't actually kill you. And it only hits you 3 times. That's like 15k damage on a Warrior. It's like, maybe a melee DPS would be able to live it? Maybe? I don't think a healer or a mage would be able to do it, because they have less... Like, they have slightly less magic defense than a tank, but they also have way less HP. So, like, that would be the limiting factor, that you don't have actually the HP to live it. But it is quite funny that such a mechanic is just... No, it doesn't kill you, it just hurts a lot. But yeah, with that... here it is. If you enjoyed this stream and the wonderful people that you met in the chat, remember that there's a Discord community server that you can join, where you'll find me and at least a bunch of the people that you see in the stream chat right now, I know. Maybe more of them. You'll also find the weekly schedule, where you can see what else is happening on the channel. And then those are usually updated Sunday or Monday, so you'll be able to see it ahead of time. There's also an announcement room where I usually post new links whenever there's a new video, new stream, whatever it is. It usually shows up there first. You can also go to the role assignments room and grab the reminder role if you would like to get a notification whenever I post a schedule or a new video, whatever it is. That also comes with a little reminder around 15 minutes before the stream starts, so that you don't miss a second of a time-sensitive thing like a stream. So you could do that. If you did enjoy this stream, it helps me a ton if you leave a like on the stream, you know, the thumbs up in the YouTube system, because that tells the YouTube algorithm that this was a very enjoyable stream and you would like other people to see it as well. So thank you so much in advance. Happy New Year to you as well, Wool. And yeah, Happy New Year to everyone that might not see the Small Kai stream tomorrow. Because we are going into the near raids tomorrow. Hopefully we can find groups for them. Worst case, and those of you that like solo challenges and janky things like this might enjoy that. Worst case, we'll have to do it unsynced and see how many people we need to do the near raids. So maybe I'll see some of you then. With that said, good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world, and I hope to see you all very soon. Bye-bye.